"Don't come to my party. You embarrass me and my colleagues," my brother said. Then his CEO introduced me as the special guest. The text came in just past 9 on a Thursday night. No greeting, no warmth, just a clean line of dismissal like a knife drawn carefully across a tablecloth. "Please don't come to the company party next Friday. It's a professional event, and I don't want you embarrassing me in front of my colleagues." That was it. No explanation. No apology. It wasn't unexpected. Derek had always been that way, sharp edges dressed in a tailored suit. He wore pride like a second skin and spent his life polishing the parts of himself he wanted the world to see. And apparently, I didn't fit that version of his world. I was too quiet in a room full of talkers, too focused in a crowd chasing appearances, too unremarkable, at least in his eyes. I stared at the message for a while. My thumb hovered over the keyboard before I simply replied, "Understood." I meant it. I didn't argue. I didn't ask why or push back. I had no need to defend myself anymore. Growing up, I had been used to being background noise in Derek's life. The brother who didn't dress right, didn't talk right, didn't play the part. He was always aiming for sleek offices, bold titles, applause. I preferred the quiet grind, the late nights filled with code and whiteboards and trial runs that crashed 100 times before they clicked once. I let the message go. I didn't mention it to anyone. I didn't even tell my team. The next morning, I buried myself back into the sprint. We were scaling our AI detection module for a logistics network, something we'd built quietly but thoroughly. It was being used in 2 major distribution firms to forecast issues before they disrupted supply chains. The implementation had gone smoother than expected. It was a solid win, but we kept it low-key. Our startup wasn't the kind that shouted. We built and moved forward. 4 days later, my phone rang while I was reviewing system logs at the office. Unknown number. I nearly ignored it, but something in me said answer. "Hello, is this Matthew Halpern?" I said yes cautiously. "This is Alexander Rains, CEO of Elixir Technologies. I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time." The name rang clear. Elixir was Derek's firm. I knew it because he never shut up about it. How fast they were growing, how elite their hires were, how they were redefining the future of integrated platforms. I knew their name, but they didn't know mine, or so I thought. "I'm calling because your startup, FluxTier, has been powering one of our most critical systems over the past 6 months. We only recently traced the full stack and back end to your work. It's frankly impressive. Your predictive model solved a problem our internal team couldn't crack for weeks." I blinked, uncertain if I was hearing correctly. I said thank you, trying not to sound thrown off. "We're hosting our annual innovation event this Friday. We'd like you to attend. Not as a guest, as our spotlight speaker. You'll be introduced by me personally. This work deserves to be recognized." My hand froze over the mouse. For a moment, all I could hear was the buzz of the office, lights above me. I said yes. She followed up with details, sent over credentials, and told me not to worry about anything. "We've already arranged for transportation, seating, and everything else. All we need is you." I hung up, sat back, and stared at the wall. He had tried to keep me out of that room. And now, I was walking in through the front, not as an afterthought, but as the one they'd built the evening around. Friday came fast. I wore the only suit I owned. It wasn't designer. It didn't shimmer under lights. But it fit well, and it was clean. The car they sent was black, understated, professional. No name tags. No flashy logos. Just efficiency. The venue was one of those clean-lined corporate buildings with high ceilings and polished floors that echoed with every step. Glass, stone, chrome, everything meant to impress. I was led through a side entrance, through a quiet hallway, and into the staging area. A few others were waiting, executives in dark jackets, a handful of industry partners. None of them looked twice at me. Then Alexandra walked in, tall, poised, and precise in her words. She shook my hand and said, "You're going to be introduced right after the quarterly update. Then we'll bring you up for a brief talk." I nodded. Minutes later, we were ushered into the main hall. The lights dimmed, the stage came alive, and a voice boomed from the speakers. People applauded. Suits smiled. Laughter where it was scripted. And then the room stilled. Tonight, Alexandra's voice carried from the stage. We're celebrating the minds behind our breakthroughs. While some contributions are expected, others come from unexpected places, hidden engines driving progress. The spotlight hit her square as she lifted her glass. One of our most praised systems, the very one that kept our rollout ahead of schedule this year, was built not by a team within our walls, but by someone outside. Someone visionary enough to see the flaw before we even noticed it existed. I didn't move, but I felt the air shift. Please welcome our special guest, the founder and lead engineer of FluxTier, Matthew Halpern. The applause started before I stood. But when I did, I looked directly across the room, and there he was, Derek, half turned in his seat, his jaw stiff, his face suddenly too still. His colleagues clapped around him. He didn't. I walked to the stage. He had told me not to come. I didn't look back at Derek as I crossed the floor. The stage was raised just enough to make every eye land on me, every conversation pause, every whisper fall silent. I climbed the short steps, walked to the center under the harsh spotlight, and shook Alexandra's hand. Her grip was firm. No staged photo. No exaggerated smile. Just respect in her gaze and purpose in her nod. I stood at the podium, hands at my sides, microphone already live. I wasn't planning to be here, I said. No small talk. No fluff. Just truth. The kind that's hard to swallow when it's aimed straight. But I'm glad I am. A ripple went through the audience. Some leaned forward. Others narrowed their eyes, trying to place my face, searching for my name in old files or email threads they never opened. I could see who knew the system I built and who had been taking credit for it. Elections Logistics Grid hit a wall 8 months ago. Your data model couldn't anticipate overlapping failures because your detection layer was blind to conditional feedback. That's not a criticism. It's a common oversight. Complex behavior isn't easy to predict, but it's what my team and I at FluxTier spend our days solving. No notes, no slides, just my voice. We built a response net that runs below your operations layer, not just watching errors, understanding them, correcting them before they affect users. That's what your board called miraculous stability this quarter. That's what Alexandra found when she finally traced the stack back to its real origin. Still no reaction from Derek. He sat with his jaw clenched, his hands folded too neatly in his lap. His team around him didn't hide their confusion. Some looked over at him, waiting for explanation. He gave none. We didn't want praise, I said, glancing across the room. We wanted to prove the idea worked. Quietly, efficiently, which we did. Pause. Let it land. But sometimes silence hides what matters. So I'll say it now, you're using our system, and we're proud of it. Not because of the recognition, but because it worked when nothing else did. That's what we build for. Function, not fanfare. The applause this time came slower, more thoughtful. It wasn't empty clapping. It carried weight. It meant people were listening, even those who didn't want to. I stepped down, walked off the stage, and returned to my table near the front. Alexandra stayed on stage and moved into the next part of the event, but the shift in the room didn't fade. The air didn't reset. People were watching now, not just politely, but curiously, wondering who I was, how they missed me, and why someone outside their carefully constructed network had taken center stage. Derek didn't come over during the first break. I watched him avoid me like I was a burning spotlight. He laughed with his coworkers, his smile strained. His voice stayed light. He gestured toward the stage once, pretending to admire something vague in the production setup. He never said my name. The second half of the event started. Panel discussions, tech presentations, a roundtable Q / and it moved fast, filled with sharp language and performance-heavy dialogue. But something had changed. People were no longer quoting Derek. They were quoting me. They referenced my speech, my model, my numbers. One CTO from a partner firm pulled me aside during a short intermission. "You built that base layer from scratch?" he asked, half smiling, half measuring. "With a team of 6, I replied. 4 developers, 1 data architect, and me leading design and deployment. He nodded, slow and calculating. Derek never mentioned that. He talked like the solution was internal. I didn't react. Let him think through that himself. He kept going. We're dealing with similar blind spots. I'd like to set up a call next week, see if you're open to consulting. I gave him a date and moved on. Another hand tapped my shoulder. Then another. One by one, the room filled with people who hadn't known my name 3 hours ago but were now writing it down, looking me up, trying to find what else I'd built. I stepped into the lounge area for air. Floor-to-ceiling glass gave a perfect view of the skyline. Behind me, the conversations blurred together, talk of strategy, contracts, expansion. But I stood still, letting the silence around the windows buffer the noise. Derek finally appeared, walking up like he hadn't spent the whole night pretending I wasn't there. "Nice speech," he said. Flat voice. No warmth. Just a placeholder sentence. "You didn't see it coming," I replied. "I didn't think you'd show," he said, then shifted. "It's a corporate event, not a place for whatever that was." I turned to face him. "You told me not to come because you were embarrassed. You thought I'd be out of place." His eyes flicked to the glass. He didn't deny it. "I didn't want drama," he said, too quick. "You didn't want your colleagues to know you weren't the smartest person in the family." He winced, not at the words, but at how direct they were. "You built a reputation off being polished," I continued. "Tight speeches, clean numbers, perfect slides. That's fine. But it isn't innovation. It's packaging. You think what you're doing is innovation?" His tone hardened. "I know it is," I said. "Ask your CEO. Ask the partners lining up in there. They're not interested in your presentation anymore. They want the thing that worked." He folded his arms, jaw twitching. "You think this changes everything?" "It already did," I answered. "You just didn't notice." He stepped back, still keeping his posture straight. He hated losing control of the frame, the tone, the spotlight. For years, he'd been the benchmark in every family conversation, the golden one. Now he was trying to figure out how the story flipped without his permission. "Enjoy it," he said quietly. "It won't last." "I'm not chasing moments," I told him. "I'm building systems. Those last longer than attention." He walked away without another word. The rest of the evening moved fast. I stayed for a few more rounds of conversation, accepted a stack of business cards, and shook more hands than I could count. One project lead from a global firm told me they'd been following Fluxsteer's shadow commits on GitHub for months. Another executive asked me if we'd be willing to license part of our architecture. I gave careful, short answers. I wasn't here to sign anything. I was here because I had earned the right to be, not through politics or polished networking, but through something most of them forgot to value: function. By the time I left, the room had reshaped itself. I walked past people still deep in discussion, still referencing my diagrams and quotes. I caught Derek in the far corner, half listening to someone while clearly watching me leave. Outside, the air felt different. Not colder, not fresher, just clearer. The car was waiting. I climbed in without a word, leaned back, and closed my eyes. The following week wasn't quiet. It couldn't be. My inbox was flooded within 2 days of the event. Some messages were just introductions, polite, deliberate, packed with compliments and veiled requests. Others were more forward: licensing offers, acquisition proposals, joint ventures. Not fluff, serious interest. I filtered them fast, prioritized the ones with actual value. I didn't have time for showmanship or empty partnerships. I had a team of 6 and no interest in becoming someone else's appendage. I kept my calls short, direct. If they didn't know what Fluxsteer actually did, the meeting ended in 5 minutes. If they tried to name-drop Derek as a bridge between us, I didn't respond. I wasn't walking through a door he opened. I was the one who built the floor. 2 major firms made full offers by Thursday. Not soft inquiries. Real money. Real equity. One of them even proposed building a separate division under my name, with full autonomy and direct board access. I passed on the first one. The second got a meeting. I didn't tell Derek any of it. There was no need. He'd already figured out that silence wasn't control anymore. Friday came around again, 1 week after the event. I got a call from Alexandra. She wasn't looking for a follow-up meeting. She wanted to talk face-to-face. No assistance. No background noise. Just her. We met at a quiet corner office overlooking the city. Not hers, but a reserved space Election used for confidential meetings. The view was clean. The room had nothing but 2 chairs and a low table. No distractions. She sat down and went straight to it. We've been reviewing everything you deployed. What impressed me more than the results was the structure. Your design doesn't just solve problems. It preempts them. It learns without feeding itself errors. I nodded. She already knew that. She wasn't here to compliment the system. She continued. I'm not offering you a position. That would be insulting. You don't belong under anyone else's vision. She reached into her bag, placed a folder on the table. This is a proposal. You stay independent. We invest. You expand. Full backing. We take a minority share. No interference. All you do is build. I opened it. The terms were clean. The valuation was higher than I expected. No traps. No buried clauses. She wasn't here to take control. She was here to make sure what I built kept going, under my own name. I'm not offering this because of what you did last week, she said. I'm offering it because of what you'll do next. I didn't answer right away. Not because I was unsure. I just wanted to make sure the words were right. I'll take it, I said. On one condition. She raised an eyebrow. I want full visibility into how Election integrates our systems moving forward. No more credit confusion. No more misattributions. I don't want headlines. I want clean lines of recognition. That's it. Done, she said. She didn't even blink. We signed within 72 hours. The news wasn't loud, but it moved fast inside the right circles. Quiet power tends to ripple deeper than noisy announcements. By Monday, 3 firms that had ignored me for over a year suddenly found my number. I didn't pick up. They'd already missed their window. Word reached Derek eventually. I didn't need to ask how. I saw it in the silence. We hadn't spoken since the night of the event, but his name came up again when Election's internal structure began shifting. Not officially, but his influence was fading. Quietly. Inevitably. I wasn't part of that decision. Alexandra handled it, but I knew why it happened. A week after the partnership went public, I got an unexpected invitation to a private internal summit, not the kind they posted on press releases. This was Election's Strategic Advisory Board meeting. Only a few dozen people. High level. Directional. My name was on the list, not as a guest, as a contributor. When I walked in, I didn't scan for Derek. I didn't need to. I saw him in the far corner, behind 2 seats lower than his usual placement. His badge wasn't red, it was blue. Observer tier. He knew what that meant. I didn't look away. He saw me. He nodded once. Not stiffly. Not begrudgingly. A real nod. One of those acknowledgments that didn't come easy. Not surrender, but recognition. I gave him a single nod back. Nothing more. No speech. No confrontación. No revenge. He was watching the table he used to lead, and I was already at the center. The meeting opened with forward strategy. I was asked to walk through integration scenarios, potential innovations, scalability points. I answered plainly. I didn't dress it up. I wasn't trying to impress anymore. That phase was over. One of the board members leaned in during a break. You're not what I expected. I shrugged. Neither was the problem I solved. He smiled at that. After the summit, I met with my team. We expanded to 12, then 20. Flux Tier moved into a new space. Not downtown, not flashy, just quiet and precise. The kind of office built to get things done. We didn't hang awards. We displayed schematics. Our work, live, running, improving. Everyone who walked in knew what we were about. We weren't chasing visibility. We were building foundations for systems others would depend on. Derek never reached out. He didn't have to. His silence had changed. It wasn't dismissal anymore. It was understanding. Months passed. We launched a new tool, adaptive across multiple industries. Healthcare picked it up first. Then logistics again. Then aerospace. It ran clean. It scaled without friction. We didn't overpromise. We delivered, and the results spoke louder than any pitch. Eventually, one of the bigger names approached us again, this time not to absorb, but to collaborate. We agreed, under strict terms: visibility, attribution, partnership, not subordination. The last time I saw Derek in person was at a panel event. Not a company party, not a family gathering, a proper industry showcase. He was on stage, second from the left. I was at the far end. The moderator mentioned our name first. He didn't flinch. He even nodded once when the mention passed. No grudge, no bitterness, just acceptance.